Hello, fellow human beings. Welcome to Push Your Evolution podcast. This is Marcos coming to you.
This is Gabe.
Gabe, how are you?
I'm good, man.
All those listening right now, if you're here, you desire personal development and growth just like us. You're here for a reason.
Yes.
We're here to, you guessed it, push your evolution forward. Why? Why are we here? Tell them, Gabe.
Marcos and I, so we're both certified life coaches. We're both 25, 29 respectively. And we've gone through so many different layers and levels of personal development. And our whole intention is to share and give insight to those who are who are on this path and who are maybe at the beginning or somewhere that we've already been. And our hope is just to empower and give and share anything that we can from our own journeys and experiences to ultimately empower you and support you on your journey.
You tuning in right now, we're here for you. You're here for you in this moment because you showed up one way or another. We're here to provide you a space. And this space is solely for you. Gabe and I are here to provide the space for you to understand, to process, to feel, to approach the things you have been avoiding. This space is for you to feel all the different emotions of your human existence. No matter how stuck you feel, no matter how impossible it feels to move forward, this podcast is completely designed for you to shatter that, to completely break it, to change the story, to raise your consciousness, to see clearly what reality really is.
We're so glad to have you here. And if you are here, it's because you are into personal development, you're looking for self-growth, and for whatever reason, in your journey right now, being here makes sense for you. And what this podcast is all about is Marcos and I sharing everything that we've learned as it pertains to emotion, consciousness, psychology, habits, tactics, resources, books. And our whole intention is to share everything that we can and for you to utilize anything that makes sense for you at this point in your life. And so
wherever you are on your journey, listener, you're right where you need to be. Let go of all judgment and all doubts and all the fears that you have of never moving forward, of never creating the life you want, of never feeling the way you want to feel or feeling in control of your emotions. Let go of that. Push Your Evolution podcast is designed to help you move through it. This space is for you.
100%. Couldn't have said it any better myself. And so we're glad to have you here. We hope that this podcast and the episodes to come serve you well. Again, we appreciate you. Anything else you want to say, Marcos? If not,
let's dive into the flow.
Dive into the flow. Enjoy, everybody.
Let the evolution flow. That's what life does, is evolve. That's all we're doing. So, the point of this podcast is to help support pushing your evolution.
Beautiful. Oh, dude. Oh, man. You catapulted me right into letting go energy. Oh, dude. What a place to be.
This is the space for it. And this is the space you and I today are providing for all of you guys tuning in for this is going to be the first episode. And if you're coming in now, you're seeing from ground floor as we rise. Follow us as we paint the picture of the path you're going to be on. If you're resonating with this now, because if you're here right now in this moment and you're present with what we're saying, you know you should be here. I mean, you're always right where you need to be. And if you got here, you're here. Boom. It's time to push your evolution forward.
Man. Yeah. For those listening, first of all, what's up? It is always a trip to have a personal creation linked up with another person. And it's just like, man, happy to have you. Really, really just curious to know how people get to this podcast. But yeah, just really grateful for you, the viewer, but also you, Marcos. And so I'm excited. Of course. Man. I'm excited, dude.
We're here for a reason. This is the space to process. We're just here to dispense the red pills. We're pure truth. We're pure deciphering, going through the smoke and the mirrors, unveiling, pulling back the layers, all of it. We're here to be in the present and to understand the truth, the capital truth of reality.
Oh my goodness. Oh boy. Man, I could trail off in so many directions right now, but I want to stay on whatever trail you have in mind.
All of this will be evolving over time. And I think as we begin, for all those tuning in, Gabe and I resonated very powerfully with a topic. And that topic is starting at the very beginning of that spark. The spark that begins to form one way or another in some point of your life that desires. And it's no longer a desire of material gain or superficial wants. It's a deep, deep spiritual desire to grow in the most authentic way that we can for us. And if you choose to follow it when you feel that feeling, your entire life changes. And if you ignore it, you're essentially ignoring life. Because life is always expanding. And if you're not going to expand with it, you're going to end up destructing.
Oh, man.
And for a lot of people, they've chosen that destruction path too many times. And if that's you, and you finally feel it within you, that you have and know that you can change and desire to, then you're right where you need to be. So thanks for joining us today as we paint the picture of that time in our lives, Gabe and I, and what that looked like 7 to 8 to 9 years ago when we felt that calling for the first time. So I think that's a beautiful place to start.
And one quick note I'd like to put out there already is it's if you are how can I put this, you get to this point at whatever age you get it to, but if you're here and you're younger, I really just want to acknowledge that, and if you're old, quote unquote older, I acknowledge that too. But it's just I've been through a lot of personal development courses, events, groups, and a common theme was a lot of older people, so to speak, saying, "Man, you're lucky," and
lucky how?
A hint of jealousy that lucky in the sense like not having to, there's like that traditional path, and nothing wrong with the traditional path, but like, the idea is you have to check box a lot of things on a resume, the life resume, college, so 9 to 5.
You use the phrase right
job,
now,
all this.
You use the phrase right now, traditional path.
Yeah.
What do we mean by that?
Kind of a surface-based agenda for life. Really kind of designed to do what everyone else is doing, and kind of like the path that's laid out for everyone by default, which is you go to school, after elementary school is high school, after high school is college. And if you don't go to college, it's the best job you can manage, which typically isn't too much. And then if you do go to college, you're likely going to be in massive debt. And even after you get after college, you're still kind of like, you don't really know yourself. You don't really know what you want. And you're in debt. And then you go along some path that's most likely influenced by either your parents or the culture. And there's not nearly enough time spent trying to help the individual figure out what they want for themselves. And then you end up at some kind of job or some kind of place by default, and then you get comfortable, you start to make money, you gain a footing in this path, but then it still doesn't feel right, but you're making it. And then time passes by and you start to rank up in that place, but you're still not quite happy. And then by the time you're 30, 35, you're knee deep in a path in which you've built your life upon. And so then the idea of transitioning starts to get even too, like, overwhelmingly big, because it's like, okay, if I have to leave this job, that means I have to start over. And that means I can't support this. Oh, by the way, I have 2 kids and I still have my debt. My point is that I really hope, and I kind of know intuitively, that a lot of younger kids, if you will, are kind of like figuring it out a lot quicker. Like, hey, I don't really, if anything, they're like, I don't want to work, so then they don't. But yeah, just really wanting future generations to find their true path as quick as possible. And I feel like me and Marcos and those listening are an example of that. So yeah, I don't even know where that came from, but yeah.
Beautiful. Because if that's you listening right now, if you're in a similar situation, right? If you feel like it's time for a change, if you're breaking out of that cycle, breaking out of the mold, breaking out of the default lifestyle because you know it's not for you, then you're here with us now for a reason. We're here to break you out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're here to help you evolve. And evolving, all it really is tuning into what you want and allowing that to happen.
Yeah.
It's really that simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in that process, right, we can complicate things. And we're here to uncomplicate all the things. We're here for you.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. So happy to be here for everyone and to have everyone here. So yeah. I have thoughts on the initial spark. I have a billion other thoughts. Is there what's coming up for you right now, Marcos?
Gabe, I'd really like to just dive into your story in this moment. I'm really interested to find out, when did you first begin that spark of change?
So there's kind of 2 pivot points that stand out. One was after high school, where my first dose of personal development came onto the scene. And then the second one was 3 years into college, when my girlfriend of 2.5, 3 years broke up with me. Actually, 1.5 years at the time, when she broke up with me. Mm-hmm. The breakup catalyzed the really deep spiritual path. That's when I found guys like Ralph Smart, Elliot Hulse, and that whole platform. And then the first one was kind of like how do I build charisma? How do I get laid? How do I get more confident?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
So the desire here was get laid, build charisma, get laid.
Yes. Well, and in hindsight, what was underneath a lot of that was I felt so insecure and had such low self-worth and sense of like self-esteem attached to the fact that I didn't have any sex in high school. And it was a really like I really, my self-worth was so low because of that. And then kind of in a similar way, when my girlfriend in college left, my ex-girlfriend left, it left a gaping hole, because what had happened was, and this is actually interesting how it all comes together, so I thought that by getting sex, I would be whole, essentially, right? By having a hot girlfriend who I can have sex with, I would become whole. And
right,
what
that would
happened?
Be the story.
Yes, what happened was I had the hot girlfriend, and my sense of wholeness, my sense of self-respect, and everything was dependent on her.
External.
She filled that void for me, and because I never worked on that stuff on a deeper, true level, when she left, all the true stuff started to come back to the surface because that void was never dealt with. And so one of the first questions, and this was the kind of the life-changing question at the time. So my girlfriend left me.
So I want to freeze you really quick and just highlight exactly what you just said. This question, a question that you asked yourself, challenging something, and being inquisitive to some type of reality.
Yeah.
Other than what you were experiencing.
Right. And it was a very core, I was challenging a very core belief or pillar of mine. And the question was, what is love really?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Because in my mind, the definition of love, or rather, if you love someone, then you would never leave them, right? To love someone would be to, I'm here for you forever. I will do anything for you. You are blah, 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 blah. And that was a model I got from my family, because we said, I love you all the time, and not just my immediate family, but my cousins, my aunts, my uncles. And so, if I say I love you to someone, that means, so when she left, it didn't compute. It was like, how can you love me, but then, leave or all of a sudden not love me? I don't get it. Right. And that basically
the opposite,
basically opposite. And that question kind of branches off into a lot of things, but basically, being in a compatible relationship is not the same as like loving someone. And then even deeper than that, like unconditional love is different than like conditional love. And it's unfair in a lot of cases, and unrealistic to expect unconditional love from even your significant others, honestly.
Right.
It's
so when that relationship ended, right?
Yeah.
And a spark happened in you, and you asked yourself, what is love really? Where did that lead you?
Well, initially it led me to a lot of like study, trying to understand mentally. But one big pivot, big game changer for me was the concept of taking 100% responsibility. And I got that from Ralph Smart. I had never heard of that before, taking 100% responsibility. And essentially what that meant in context is, I can't expect a girl to fill the voids and like handle my self-confidence and self-worth for me. I need to be 100% responsible for that on my own. Yeah. So that's ultimately where that led me.
Ownership.
Yeah.
Over what you're experiencing internally.
What about you, man? What was your kind of comparable path?
It's ironic, Gabe, because as I'm reflecting on it right now, mine started with a relationship as well. The ending of a relationship.
Yeah. you care to share? Is there
Of course.
yeah, please.
But for all of you listening right now, I want to build a little bit more context before I add more content.
Nice.
This spark that we're talking about, the spark of energy, life force, passion, consciousness, it's really all the same, all of the above. It's an internal push forward to create and construct instead of destruct. A lot of times people call it source. A lot of people call it God. You can really call it whatever you want. There's an underlying life force that our consciousness is connected to. And it's vastly more powerful. And we cannot see it. It's invisible, but we know it's there because it is what gives us life. And our consciousness is here as a mechanism, a tool to be able to recognize this power. And when we're born into this society, we're slowly taught how to disconnect from this higher vibrational, evolving conscious space because we're taught who to be constantly throughout our current society because of the level of consciousness that it resides in. And of course, we're not ever judging anyone else. We're only highlighting what really is different between this state and that state. And it's all vibration, vibrational levels of consciousness. You're taught from day one who to be, what you can't do, what you can do, who you should be. You build your identity through the society around you. You evolve based on the inputs around you. I mean, kids don't really have real consciousness until I think it's about between 5 and 8 when they start to build alpha brainwave states and they start to go higher in brainwave activity. And they really do actually gain consciousness. But after that, as we evolve, we gain higher and higher levels of consciousness. And this is what we call the self-actualization process. So the spark that we're talking about is the spark of the desire to grow our self-actualization, knowing ourself, knowing our reality, knowing what we want, knowing how to get it, evolving. Remember, we're here to push your evolution. This is big brain space right now.
It's a language. It's a language and it's a conversation.
I'm telling you, audience, right now, be prepared to swallow a lot of red pills that you didn't know you're going to swallow. And sometimes you're not going to have water. I'm telling you that right now. It may be painful. It may trigger. It may make you collapse for a day. And you know what? Good. Feel it. We're here for you. We love you. That is why we're here.
Yeah, 100%.
So
100%.
When did the spark start with me? I'll just say from ages 0 to about 16, I was raised very Catholic. I went to private Catholic school and I got a tattoo on my arm of a cross. And literally the day after that, I just decided to drop the entire belief of my religion. I just let it go.
Wait. You got a tattoo and then the day after you're like, I reject this?
No,
oh my
joke.
God.
I don't reject it. I no longer hold it as the ultimate truth of my reality. It was just a collection of stories. And I was like, cool, a stamp of approval that, you know, I have good morals from this set of beliefs I was raised in. Good. Wow. I'm thankful for it. Boom, stamp of approval on my arm, permanent, moving on.
Holy shit. That's badass.
And I said that the spark for me started when I ended a relationship. Long story short, I met a girl online when I was 16 and I started internet dating her. I visited her twice in North Carolina where she lived. It went smoothly. And then I eventually moved there. After high school, I rushed through my last year of high school so I could get everything prepared to sign up for college in North Carolina. And that's exactly what I did. I dropped my actual family to go and try to adopt this other family. I was not very authentic at that age, as are a lot of people that are ages 16 to 18. It's not our fault. Look, you're barely really like tapping into your power of what you're capable of. And you don't really fully know your limits. And you don't fully build your moral code all the time. it can be easy to just do things that are not in alignment. And I did a lot of things that were not in alignment, and one thing led to another. And my relationship ended literally 6 months after I moved there. It was really devastating to me because I was in a state all alone by myself. I had my entire bridge burned from everyone that I knew because everyone that I knew was essentially connected to this one family. So I fell into isolation, suicidal depression. I went to dark places in the conscious mind. I really explored the opposite of happiness. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't make it out. But in that darkness somewhere, right, a little tiny pilot light lit. And that tiny little pilot light said life, to some degree, was worth it. Even though I had cascaded into darkness, I didn't love myself. I completely hated myself. All of my subconscious beliefs were now incredibly destructive, and I did try to take my life a couple times. But for whatever reason, my life force kept going. Not necessarily of my choosing. It might have been subconsciously, but it did. So I was set on a path where this little light was guiding me, like a little flashlight in a dark ass cave, and I'm going through and I don't know where I'm going. I have no idea how I got there. I wasn't really conscious of myself at 18 fully. But it was through my intensity of my pain, depression, darkness, literally wanting to die on a daily basis, that some part of me said, hey, you know what? I actually don't like this. I actually don't want to be in this space. And it's not when you're in that space, it's not an overwhelming experience. It's a little pilot light that you listen to, a little sound, a little soft spoken word to you that says, heal, heal, grow. Wait a second. Evolve. So I made the choice. Evolve. And just like Gabe, the last 8 to 9 years of my life has been dedicated to evolving mental gains, massive mental gains, to understand fully all the different aspects of my reality and all the different aspects of the desire that I have, that we all have for life. So now Gabe and I are here to teach you how to embrace life, how to truly live the way you want to live. Because let me tell you, it really just does come down to a choice. Do I want to suffer more in my life, or do I want to improve what is under my control? I picked the latter. And we're here to help. Once again, we love you and we're here to help.
Quick, dude, always appreciate when you share that vulnerably. Quick question.
Of course.
When you decided to heal that whispering voice, was there like a rock bottom to hit? What caused you to turn towards healing as opposed to ultimate destruction? Why not? You know, what kind of like influenced you to go towards healing?
Right. Tony Robbins speaks a lot about the language of gaining enough energetic leverage to create change. And what he really means by that is that when you hit a specific quality of either greatness or darkness, it is in exact opposite equalness to the darkness, where I'm saying positive, the greatest good that you can have is only equal to the worst possible reality you can experience. So you express the capacity both ways. You can experience awesome and you can experience tragic. When you allow yourself to feel emotions, you allow yourself to experience all of human emotions. And to the intensity of that is really what gains energetic leverage. So every time I would push past what I thought was rock bottom and create a new rock bottom for myself, I gained enough leverage to be like, I hate this so much that literally a tiny, another reality that's slightly less painful than this would be better. And not quite amazing
Got it.
life, but slightly less painful. And and that's what you have to do is crawl your way sometimes. Before you're running, you need to you're on the ground beat up. You need to move your body, crawl on the ground, allow it to happen somehow. That's what I did.
No, I totally hear what you're saying. It's interesting that it got to a point where it was so painful that your solution was then to crawl back up as opposed to make it all go away through, ending it.
Yeah.
And I guess that speaks to like the light, and like your soul kind of found itself again. And in fact, that reminds me of I wanted to share so there's this author that both Marcos and I love. So yeah, if you kind of tuned out, I got this from, was it Joe Rogan or someone else? If you've tuned out in the podcast, this is a resource. So this is a resource.
Right,
this is a resource.
right.
This is a resource. By the author's name is David R. Hawkins.
Yes.
And I like to call him the godfather of consciousness, of the field of the study of consciousness. And in fact, I'm like 99.9% sure IPEC, our life coach training school, was largely based on his discoveries. Yeah. And so there's a book that he has called Transcending the Levels of Consciousness. And basically it's a deep dive into the different levels of consciousness, which in layman's terms are just different levels of emotions and the mindset associated with the emotion. So for example, feeling happy is an emotion, and with that are certain types of thoughts and a certain type of consciousness, if you will, or vibration or feel. And to, again, put it in layman's terms, like clearly being happy and being sad are two different worlds, right? They color the perception, which then colors your experience of yourself and your life.
They're literally different realities.
Literally different realities. And so going back to what Marcos was saying about, being in darkness and suicide and then finding leverage, the way David R. Hawkins describes it is, first of all, shame and guilt and depression and apathy are on the lowest end of consciousness. And quite literally at that point, things are dark, things are gray, and like you can't even move. Yep. Like you're basically dead but alive.
Dense yes. ass person.
Yes. And what he says is the nature of being in shame and guilt and apathy is like you kind of need this like touch of God in order to like calibrate you back up. But another way to say that is, you end up going so low that at your low, it's almost like the light shines on you to heal. And ultimately what has you go up. But in layman terms, I think it's the equivalent of like hitting your rock bottom. But yeah, just point being, when you're sometimes when you're deep in darkness, it requires a healing, a vehicle of deep healing to bring you out of it. That's why, for example, like when people are in deep guilt, depression, suicidal, like, Christianity finds them or some type of religion find them, and it gives them a vehicle for light. It gives them a platform,
a set of beliefs.
Yeah, a set of beliefs. There you go. Yes, exactly. It gives them empowerment. Yeah, that's interesting.
I really like the point that you're making too. And essentially this touch of God is only really experienced in one place. And I love that we're coming right down to it. And it's the present moment.
Ooh.
Because it is a nature of our evolving consciousness as we literally go from infant to creature that can build battleships, right? You build an identity The you that you think of when you think of you. Right?
Nah, dude, it gets crazy.
When you step into the presence, you dissolve it all.
Dude, you know, there's something about whenever I have these types of conversations, I'm brought so much peace. It's my version of like listening to gospel, to be
Totally.
honest.
Totally.
But with that said, I do want to acknowledge that there are 1,000 roads. There are infinite roads to happiness, and in Marcos and I's deep dive, this just is kind of where we ended up. It's what makes the most sense.
Yes. I
It's what
love
makes the
it.
most sense. Yeah, I don't know. And ultimately, it's just what resonates with us and what empowers us.
Exactly.
But yeah,
Listen, listeners that are listening in, tuning in right now. Gabe is a trillion% right. This is what evolution is: tapping into your intuition and allowing it to guide you. Because basically, I mean, it's going to sound corny. You have all the answers within.
yeah,
It's so simple. It
yeah,
really is.
yeah.
Every challenge that you're experiencing, literally reverse engineer it, and it there's a quote, and I totally forgot. I think it's what's his name? What's his name? The Stoicism guy. Oh my God.
Marcus Aurelius.
Yes, I think it's his quote where it's the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way
Yes,
becomes the way.
yes. The
Your
obstacle is the way.
challenge
Yes.
is your challenge is literally the thing telling you, showing you what to do, how to grow at every moment. That is the power of the present moment. If you're at the beginning of your personal development journey and you're here right now because energetically you've been brought here because you're already tapped into your intuition, we're telling you all of the magic happens in the present moment. We're not thinking about the past. We're not thinking about the future. We're not thinking about the story of our life and who we are. We're in the present and we have zero thoughts about existence. We're just existing. You come to the present moment. And from this space, you gain the ability to choose what you want because you realize that your life is there's so much of your life that is in your control. There's so much that you can control, but there's a little bit that you can't. You always control, most importantly, the meaning of all your experiences. No matter how stuck you may feel, no matter how painful life may be in this moment, ultimately, you get to choose the meaning of those experiences that are emanating sadness, that you've chosen to feel the pain of these experiences. And they're teaching you a lesson. What I'm referring to right now is your entire biochemical feedback system.
Mm.
You learn to read it in the present.
Mm.
You tap into your intuition. You tap into that part of you that you know right now that I'm speaking to in you, that is consciousness. And that consciousness is simply awareness. And that's why you're here right now. You're gaining awareness with us. We're helping you down the path because we've gone through this. We've gone through about 8 to 9 years of this. And we are here to help you down the path because it was a struggle. And we don't want you to have to struggle as much as you need to. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And I think that's a direct quote from Bruce Schneider,
Ha. Pretty sure
who
that yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
is the founder of IPEC. Thank
Yes.
you, IPEC. Thank you,
Yes.
every high conscious institution, program, podcast, video, guru, mentor out there for playing
Right.
your part. We're playing our part. Thank you for tuning in. We love you a
Yeah.
lot. We're here
Yes,
for
we
you.
do.
That's the whole point.
Yes.
Presence. We're talking about presence.
Yeah. I'm imagining there's at least one listener out there right now in which, first of all, this could be their first taste of any of these topics. But it's also possible that this podcast is like one of their main ways to feel like they're seen, like they matter, like they're worth it.
You listening right now,
Mm-hmm.
you do matter.
Yeah.
100%. And I'm going to tell you something right now. You're not going to embody the information and feel immediately happy, but it's a pretty big red pill.
Yeah.
And that's that your worthiness is intrinsic to your beingness.
Oh man, that's one that I deal with still day to day. And you know, and I think that's one thing. Oh man. Okay, I want to give this to the listeners.
Right.
So one thing to keep on the table always is that you're a human being.
Tell them, Gabe.
Is that you're a human being. And so as a human being, we are prone to human beingness, meaning self-judgment, meaning feeling less, feeling like our self-worth is attached to the clothes we wear and the money we make and the people that we're having sex with or not. And so if you know, as you grow, as you become more familiar with this space of being whole and complete, just as you are, also know that when you don't feel that way, it's okay.
I love it.
And the expectation isn't, it just gets more and more ironic as you go, because it's like you get attached to feeling whole as like you need to feel whole to be whole. And then you're like, I don't feel whole. So then you're judgmental. And then
you've added a condition to your unconditional acceptance of yourself.
It's almost like just like this ongoing game. And then along with that, like
it really do be like a game.
Not only that, I think something to keep in perspective is that more of us, like I don't know the actual statistic, but like 99% of us wake up and live and breathe and go to sleep feeling judged and like unwhole. And so my point is that the culture has unwholeness ingrained in it. The people in our lives have unwholeness ingrained in it. You know, so it's kind of like I forget what culture this comes from, but they call it Maya, where it's like right. It's I think it's called like the sickness of the mind. I believe that's what it's called. Yeah, the sickness of the mind, which is basically this illusion like we're unwhole and we're separate, and you know, and it's even worse in Western culture. And I mean, look at the way that society is currently constructed. It's you know, you go on, and you know, I'm kind of rambling off now, but like, you know, something I've noticed, dude, is like,
tell me,
using social media, specifically TikTok or Instagram, those type of social medias where you're posting for kind of your own individual attention. It's like just by using it, I can't help but feel the energy of like, what's the term? Like, and I know it's all just for fun and entertainment. Like, let's not take this too seriously, but it's sometimes difficult to live at a high vibration and also engage with some of these things. And I'm not saying those things are like low, horrible vibration. But it's like, you know, if I scroll through 100 TikToks, at least 25% of them are just raw people like looking for attention, looking to show off their
this is another red pill, by the way.
Show off how good they look for the sake of what seems like a self-esteem grab, or like a look at
narcissism.
Sure,
And
sure, if
and
you
I
want to
like
call it
that you're
that.
saying this right now, because we're going to make a distinction too. Like the whole platform, it's social media is
Right.
attention seeking. But again, attention seeking is not good or bad.
Right. Oh man, we should go down that road as well.
And maybe in a different episode.
I'm kind of teaching
We
myself
will.
that. Yeah.
But
Anyways, yeah,
what Gabe is
Anyways.
referring to essentially is the self-centeredness of attention seeking, kind of a lower vibrational consciousness of just kind of fulfilling the self on a superficial way. And a lot of social medias have become that, just because that's kind of just the generalization of the current society. I mean, that's again attuned to, we can call it a disease or a sickness to the degree that we're experiencing them, of course.
Yes.
And we'll get to this in a whole different episode. We can dedicate, dude, we can go on for hours about it.
Hours, absolutely hours. In fact, I want to kind of bring that full circle in that, again, so just like how having a hot girlfriend helped me fill this void for self-esteem, for a lot of people, getting likes and attention through social media is a way to fill that void of, I don't really feel that good about myself, right? Because it's like, what happens when the likes don't come? You know, I felt this way. I know many people who have felt this way, where it's like, oh, this didn't get that many likes, I feel shitty about myself. Right. Like I think many people can feel this. And again, I want to remove the judgment of it. It's understandable. And again, there's actually, I believe there's an evolutionary programming. Like, we needed group approval for existence, for survival.
100%.
And so I think a lot of that comes into play. But my point is that, or what I was going to say was, when you post something and then you're kind of like you're like vulnerable. It's like, oh my God, will this gain approval? Will this, but then it gets super superficial, where it's like, oh, a number. It's not even about who likes it. It's about just the number of likes. We're like, and it's so crazy. More likes equals more self-esteem, more worth. And it's like weird. And the same way it works with dollars. It's like more dollars is more self-worth. More fans is more self-worth. More wins is more self-worth. And I get how they're related, but then going back to, it's like, what happens when those things are gone?
Exactly.
Like,
conditional. What happens when you externalize your self-worth? You make it conditional.
Right.
And that stems so many problems that we see.
Yeah, conditional. And then to go down even further, what happens is, because our sense of self is so dependent on the approval of others, we end up living a life based on the approval of others. That's how you end up being 45 years old, married to someone that you don't really like, but they gain some superficial approval. Wherever you're at in your journey and whatever age, it's all meant to go that way somehow or another. And so it's not about age, right? Or even the timing. The fact is, you're here, and better late than never, right? Better late than never.
For real, honestly. Honestly, no judgment over any condition over your life right now. Whatever age you are, whatever circumstance you're experiencing, let go of that judgment. You're right where you need to be, with us right here, right now.
And plus, like, I know that there are benefits to the, and that's another thing about just taking charge of your story, right? It's like, just being 50 and getting to this point, technically speaking, there's no difference in someone being 15. In fact, you can argue that it's better, because man, like, there's a lot of character built and skills developed and experience gained, no matter what you're effing doing. Doesn't matter if you're in the spiritual path or not. Like, and so just wanted to humble myself.
Of course.
Yeah, but yeah.
What
Oh man.
What we're here to do is help you build strong sense of self-worth. Because in that process of releasing whatever conditional judgment you're experiencing, wherever you are in your timeline in your life, and we're going to help you break out of the story to start helping you create the reality that you want, ultimately, you're going to be confidently following the promptings of your intuitive mind. That is letting evolution flow. That is what we're here for.
100%. And then some practical advice, if I could, is to take a look at the story. Take a look at the story and shift. First of all, okay, if you're in a place that you don't like, but you're going to be there for a certain amount of time, a story could be, you got to accept that you're going to be there. Or if you're going to complain, then complain. You know, if you're not going to change it, then just be willing. Like, you have no one to blame but yourself. But then second of all, if you can change your situation, I'm talking to those of you who are at a job you don't like and it's soul crushing. My encouragement to you, and this is so deeply sincere, my encouragement to you is to actually do something about this. Begin to look and ask yourself, what do you really want to do? And as you figure that out, all that's left for you to do, and I make it sound simple, even though it's not simple necessarily, is to gain the courage to make that leap. And I'll leave it at that.
Exactly. Like we said, the spark of feeling the evolution flow and planting the seed of growth. And you've decided to be a gardener and you're going to water this seed because you're going to push your evolution forward. It starts with questions that we ask ourselves. For Gabe, it was, what is love really? And that led him down the path to exploring ultimate self-love. My question was, how could I make my life less painful? Even just a little bit. And that led me down the path of ultimate self-love. We're here to help you. We're here to help push your evolution forward. Accept the red pills we're giving to you. We do it out of love. Begin by asking yourself a question. Shift the story. You are the master of your reality. Continue with us, subscribe to this, and as we move forward, we'll help you realize just how much control you really have over your life. And it's honestly quite amazing. We love you. We want to help you. Gabe, we're here and we're out.
Love y'all.
Peace.